For Finance, Ways and Means Committee meeting for Alpena County Board of Commissioners to order on Tuesday, August 13th, 2024 at 09:30. And we'll begin with a roll call, please. Carrie?
Commissioner LaHaye.
Here.
Commissioner Ludlow.
Here.
Commissioner Lalone. Here. Commissioner Peterson.
Here.
Commissioner Fournier. Here. Commissioner Kozlowski. Commissioner Francisco.
Here. Okay, if you would all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Board members all have the agenda for today. There are a couple of modifications that I'd like to add to that. The first one is Mr. Breggy's here from the Alpena County Road Commission. I would like to insert that after action item 1, after we vote on paying for the bills. And the other one, I'll wait until we go into rise and report and turn the meeting back over to the chair. That's all right, Chair? Okay. Are there any other modifications or amendments before we vote to approve the agenda? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion then to adopt the agenda with one amendment at this time.
Supporting the motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner LaHaye and support from Commissioner Peterson. Any discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion is carried and the amended agenda is adopted. First order of business is public comment. Anyone who wishes to make a comment, you come up and please state your name. And you'll have 3 minutes to provide your comments. We'll start with the gallery of people that are present here today. Seeing none, how about on Zoom, Kim? Anybody there raising their hand? No, so public comment going once, twice, and we'll end public comment. First item on our agenda for action are bills to pay. Look for a motion and support to pay the bills as presented.
I'll make that
I
motion.
have a motion from Commissioner Lalone. Do I have support? Support. I have support from Commissioner Ludlow. Is there any discussion on the bills to pay? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner LaHaye.
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow.
Yes.
Commissioner Lalone. Yes. Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier. Yes. Commissioner Kozlowski.
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes, the motion is carried. We'll pay the bills as presented. As I indicated for the amendment, adding a road commission. Mr. Breggy, please, if you'd approach the podium.
Thank you all for adding me. Last winter in December, just before our budget process, I was approached by a donor who wishes to remain anonymous that wants to donate $375,000 towards paving a road in Alpena County. Unfortunately, so let me back up. So we're here at this point because we had to put the project out for bids or get the project designed, put it out for bids, find out how much money we actually were looking at that point. And that's how we resulted in this $375,000. I've been talking to Patrick from the Community Foundation for Northeast Michigan. We're trying to find a way for us to get that money. And it sounds like
Is this for third?
this is not for third. This is actually for Lake Winya, which is why I've been working so hard to make this happen, because the likelihood of Lake Winya Road getting paved outside of this gift is almost zero when we look at that, because as a local road, someone has to pay at least 50% of the paving cost. Typically, that's a township. Alpena Township is on board with paying 1/3. So this donor is actually paying 1/3 in Alpena. Alpena Township's paying 1/3 and Road Commission's paying 1/3. And Maple Ridge Township did not have the funds to match the 1/3. And we're not able to do that. And this donor has stepped up and said, listen, I'll pay my share and their share. So it's quite an opportunity for the entire community for us to make this happen. Again, back to the financial part. We're looking at the possibility of bringing this money through the Community Foundation for Northeast Michigan. I've talked to Patrick and stop me if I get wrong here, but and I had my finance director contact the treasurer, which I'm glad we're on this path we are now. And basically, I think it was, I need permission from the board to receive that gift from the foundation and then pass it on to the road commission. Is that how it works?
We have to even see how we can legally set that up.
Okay.
Because it's my understanding is the donation would be made from the private citizen to Northeast Michigan Community Foundation. And then Alpena County would be applying or receiving that donation. And then you want Alpena County to give it to the road commission. So you have all these different pieces that I have no idea what's legal and what's not and what's proper for. And that's why I said it would have to be number one, brought to the board, and then number two, we have to find out if we can even do what you're asking.
Yeah, absolutely. And we, we are subject to audits just like the county
Right.
is. And so, I would definitely want that to happen.
Yeah, we need all that verified
We don't want to be in a
before,
situation where somebody has to give it back.
right?
We have cleared it with our auditor. It's okay for us to receive that from you.
From Alpena County, right?
So I
We
don't,
still have to verify that we can receive the grant from Northeast Michigan Community Foundation to Alpena County and then give it to you guys.
Can you not get it directly from CFNEM?
Yeah, that was my thought, is why can't Alpena County or Alpena County Road Commission receive it directly?
Can I?
Yeah.
comment
Please,
on that?
please do, sir. Yes, please.
Yeah, so Patrick Carity, Community Foundation for Northeast Michigan, good morning. This came across my desk in late July. And so this is kind of new ground for the Community Foundation. But it's a path that I want to explore. We know we can accept the grant from the donor, but now what I'm trying to figure it out is how can we get the grant out where it's supposed to go? Since we have a relationship of making grants to the county of Alpena and that history is there, I know I can make a grant to the county. But then just have to ensure that that money that arrives at the county is used for the purpose that it was made for, which is the road improvements out at Lakewood. So we make grants to 501c3s, local units of government, schools and churches. We've made grants, as I said before, to the county. I've never made a grant to the road commission. And as of today, I haven't been able to independently verify their establishment as a local unit of government. So this seemed to be a path of least resistance because I understand there's a bit of a sense of urgency around this. So construction can begin this year.
Oh, you think you can start it this year?
we're ready to go. The contractor called me on the way here and said, where are we at on this? I'm ready to start, so.
I wish we could find a donor for third.
Is the money in escrow right now or an account through CFNEM, or is it still with the family or the estate?
It is still with the donor, but we have a signed agreement, our board with the donor.
Okay.
To make this happen, so.
So is that going from the curve all the way back to the end? The road? How far?
It is going to. I guess it comes off the end of the asphalt, goes around the curve,
Yeah.
goes to the next curve and just past it.
To the right? Yeah, okay.
And like I said, this would be a tremendous upgrade for that area because once you upgrade the gravel road to paved.
I live on Lake Winnebago. I don't have to travel that far, but I know,
Property values really
yeah,
increase.
yeah.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Mr. Breggy, or your last name again, sir?
Harry,
Mr. Harity from CFNEM. Any questions from the board at this time? So yes, sir, please.
make one just quick
Sure,
comment.
sure.
So, I wanted to establish the ability for the money to go out first. There are some additional steps that the Community Foundation needs to take before we accept this gift from the donor. But I didn't want to spend the capacity on that until I knew that there was a way for the money to pass through.
Okay. So what we would do is I'll look.
Make a motion that we accept the money from the how do you want to
We
do?
can't accept the
Oh,
money.
okay, make the motion that
You would have to apply for the grant.
apply for the,
If you can pass it through to the Alpena County Road Commission, it would be cleaner for them to grant it directly to the road commission.
is there a possibility of doing that?
They don't know, is what
Oh,
you
yeah.
just said.
We have a path right now with the county. I don't have a path yet with the. road
But we don't
commission.
know if we can legally accept the grant and then pass it on to the Alpena County.
We can make the motion pending legal review that we accept the grant.
Yes.
That's what I'm,
To apply for.
yes.
You do
Yes.
not have to apply to us for the grant. So
No?
if I know the path is here, we can do a pass through and that we could, the trick is, not the trick, the issue is that the donor wants to make a gift of stock. All right, so we have the ability to accept that stock and sell that stock.
Okay,
So we would make the gift, it would be a grant to you, but it would be a direct grant. There's no application process on part of it.
So what I'm looking for is a motion to accept the direct grant from the Community Foundation of Northeast Michigan
pending
pending
legal.
Pending
legal
being,
review.
pending being able to transfer it to the road commission without any issues.
That's my motion.
Okay, so
Support.
okay, I'm going to just reiterate that so I get it kind of straight in my mind. So looking for a motion and support, which I've received, for the Alpena County to receive the gift from the Community Foundation of Northeast Michigan pending legal review and approval that we can actually take that action for then transferring those funds to the Alpena County Road Commission.
Clear as mud.
About the best I can do right now.
Pretty good.
Okay, all right. So I have a motion and support. Is there any other discussion?
Only other
Please go ahead.
question I
Yeah.
got, Brian, was when they originally blacktop Lake Winnie Road, it stopped right at my driveway. Didn't somebody pay, do it down to the curb?
They did. May or may not be the same individual.
Okay. I mean, that was how did that go through? Was that direct or?
I'm not certain because that wasn't my administration.
Okay. Yeah, because I know they put next to what, half mile there,
Yeah.
road in, somebody
I
paid for that?
don't know if it was paid directly to the contractor. I
Okay,
was engineer tech at the time, but I wasn't privy to how that worked.
okay,
But I agree with Ms. Ludlow that I want the county and us to make sure that this happens correctly.
How many miles is this actually? Is it a
It
mile?
would be a mile.
Yeah.
Yeah. About 1.1 miles.
So I restated the motion to make sure Kim got it down correctly, because none of us will remember what we just said. So are you good to go, Kim? Okay, very good. So I'd like to do a roll call vote on this, since it's obviously the funds are directly involved, so please.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. Mr. Breggy, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is Chelsea Meter of the CPA from Straley, Lamp and Krensline with our audit results. Morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here to present the 2023 fiscal year audit to all of you. So you are required to have an audit annually by an external independent auditor, which is Straley, Lamp and Kransline. And you are required to comply with generally accepted accounting principles. You're also required to comply with governmental accounting standard boards, codification. And we are required to perform our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards as well as government auditing standards. And although a audit is a very high level of assertion, it is not absolute assurance. It is the highest level of assurance you can get in an attestation engagement, but it is always important to remember it's not absolute assurance. So a little bit about the report design. So the only couple pages found within this report that's really Straley, Lamp and Kransline is the independent auditor's report, which is about 3 pages. The rest of this report is really the counties, and there's the county. So GASB has something called required supplementary information, or RSI. That's not part of the basic financial statements. However, it is deemed important enough by GASB that it is required to be included within your report. So your management's discussion and analysis is part of RSI. And then you have your basic financial statements, which is going to contain your government-wide financial statements, your fund financial statements, and your note disclosures to those statements. So GASB 34 is the reason that you have the 2 sets of statements. So your government-wide financial statements are really on that full accrual basis of accounting, which is similar to a private sector. And it includes, all your accruals, your debt, your capital assets. That is quite different from those fund financial statements, which really are on the modified accrual basis of accounting and just focus on how money flows in and out and what's available for spending at year end. It doesn't include, your capital assets or your debt, your pension liability, things of that nature. The next thing in your report is the rest of the RSI, which is going to contain your pension schedules as well as your major fund budgetary comparison schedules. And then the remaining portion of the report is your supplementary information, which is your individual and combining fund statements. And then you have a couple letters that are not found within the report. And the first one I'm going to go over is communication with those charged with governance, which is you, the board. And there's just a couple key items in this letter that I think warrant presentation and reminder. I know you probably hear me say these every year, but I think that they're really important items within this letter. So management is responsible for the selection and appropriate accounting policies. In addition, we did implement GASB statement number 96, subscription-based information technology arrangements as of January 1, 2023, which is a new GASB standard that was required to be put into effect for your fiscal year 2023. All significant transactions have been recognized in the financial statements in the proper period. In addition, there are some estimates reflected within these financial statements. They're in order to comply with generally accepted accounting principles or GAAP. Oftentimes you have to make estimates to comply with those. So there's certain numbers you could reconcile and know on any given day, such as cash. And then there's items that must be estimated, such as, your depreciation expense. And there's a couple estimates that are sensitive, and those are all listed here within this letter. Some of the major ones are regarding your capital assets, which is estimated based on the estimated useful life of those assets, and then they're depreciated over those lives. And also the pension liability and the related deferred inflows and outflows of resources related to that. There's a lot of assumptions that go into that pension liability, and they're very significant numbers to the financial statements. I am pleased to say we did not have any difficulties in performing our audit. And we also did not have any disagreements with management during the course of our audit. There were audit adjustments proposed. Those were reviewed and approved by management and are reflected within these financial statements. And the other loose leaf letter that's not found within the report is a report on internal controls. So this is our independent auditor's report on internal controls and compliance, and this is required by government auditing standards. So internal controls we do review them. We understand those in regard to, significant accounting procedures and policies. However, we do not audit that system of internal controls. So it's always important to remember we do not actually issue an opinion on the system of internal controls. And there could be deficiencies that exist within that system of internal controls that we did not identify during the audit process because we are reviewing those internal controls for a limited purpose and for the scope of our audit. However, had we identified one, we would have a requirement to communicate those. So deficiency in internal control exists when the design or operation of control does not allow management or employees to prevent and detect or correct the material misstatement on a timely basis. So there were a couple of repeat internal control deficiencies, and these are very common within governmental reports. And even the state will say, were there any deficiencies other than these two? So the state of Michigan doesn't care about these two because they're just so common. And those were financial statement preparation and segregation of duties. There were also material audit adjustments, and there was a budget overage, which was actually caused by an audit adjustment related to GASB 87 leases. So if you remember from 2022, GASB 87 was implemented in 22. It's a very new standard. Everyone's really kind of trying to get a grasp, I think, on that standard, but there were a significant amount of leases that went into effect in 2023, and it caused a material audit adjustment, which then in turn caused this budget overage. And also in regards to capital assets, which that has already been addressed and a plan is in action for, so I wouldn't expect that to continue for 2024. So then we have the independent auditor's report, which you'll find on pages 1 to 3. And I am pleased to report you were issued an unmodified opinion, which means we do believe the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. And materiality is really a concept that auditors use. And then we, of course, make various risk assessments and review that system of internal controls to then plan and perform our audit and gather audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate for us to base this opinion on. Now, risks can change from audit to audit depending on, facts and circumstances, things that are ongoing in the year, certain areas may be considered high risk one year and may not be another year. Two items that don't really follow that is revenue is pretty much always going to be high risk. And there's an audit codification that says that it presumes fraud risk within revenue in basically all audits. So that's pretty much always going to be a significant risk audit area. In addition, segregation of duty and management override of controls. Again, there's an audit codification standard that says that that's going to be a significant risk area. Now, GASB 96 SPIDAs was considered a higher risk area this year because it's new. Anytime there is something new that's being implemented and could be significant or material, or it really just adds risk there. So that became a higher risk area this year. GASB 68 and the pension calculations was a significant risk area due to, one, the significance of those numbers, and two, it's a sensitive estimate. Both those things combined just leads that to be a riskier area. And then capital assets, those are also very significant numbers. Again, we talked about that being a significant estimate. So it just fell into that higher risk bucket. Now, so basically, when you have these higher risk areas, it just means they're going to get more audit attention. It means that we need more audit evidence in those areas. But other areas that aren't considered high risk also get audit attention and substantive testing. So next, you'll see a very condensed and comparative statement of net position for your governmental activities. The full statement is on page 17. So this is just kind of to look at this comparatively and see what changed from 2022 and what happened during 2023. So the most significant changes is you see a huge increase in the capital assets, and then that correlating would be the net position, and that net investment in capital assets also increasing. Both of those increased over $26 million. And there were two reasons. One, there were several leases that went into effect, which GASB 87 now requires the recognition of that right of use leased assets, and that increased those net of that amortization about $624,000. And then there was also a huge increase in construction in progress of about $30 million, and that consisted of the airport's runway rehabilitation project, which is a huge project that's ongoing. So that one was really the main cause for those huge increases. Current liabilities also increased about almost $2 million. The most significant reason for that was an increase in accounts payable of about $3.8 million, which was also due to that airport runway rehabilitation project. Since it's such a significant project, there was a large payable in that fund outstanding at year end, which flows through to your statement of net position. And then unearned revenue decreased about $1.9 million due to the use of some ARPA funds. So those two things together led to that increase in the current liabilities. The next slide is a condensed comparative statement of activities on your governmental activities. You can find the full statement on pages 18 to 19. So overall, there was an increase in net position in governmental activities of about $29.5 million. This was an increase of about 27.8 over 2022. And again, the reason for this was really that airport runway rehabilitation project. So you had your recipient grant for that project. And so we see that huge increase in the capital grants of 29.5 million. And so you have the revenue there. However, you record a capital asset, so you don't have any expense matching on the statement of activities because these are these full accrual statements. So once that project's complete, it is going to move into its capital asset category, and then it will be depreciated over its estimated useful life. And that's when the expense is actually going to hit on the statement of activities. So that project is really what's causing that huge increase in net position this year, because you have the revenue and you don't have the expense there yet. Pension benefits, which we talk about a little bit. So, everyone's probably pretty familiar with these, but just a very condensed summary on, what is this? So the county participates in the Municipal Employees Retirement System, or MERS. And MERS is an agent, multi-employer, statewide public employee pension plan that's established under Public Act 135 of 1945. And MERS is the plan fiduciary for the county and that pension plan. And there's over 1,000 participating municipalities within that plan. So we talked about these being significant numbers on your statement of net position. So net at the end of 2023, it was about $9.8 million. And it is important to remember, this is a very significant estimate. And there's so many factors that go into this. There's the actuarial valuation. There's so many assumptions, inflation, mortality rates, the list of what goes into that calculation. It really go on and on. So sometimes governments say, well, what can we do? This is a significant liability. Well, there's really not much anyone can do. You just continue to make those actuarially determined contributions to that plan. So then there's a governmental fund summary, and the next slide is just kind of a summary of the general fund and the general fund's fund balance. So at the end of fiscal year 2023, the general fund ended with a fund balance of about $3.8 million. And of that amount, about $475,000 or 12% was committed. And that consists of amounts that are constrained for particular purposes. And the remaining 88% or about $3.3 million was considered unassigned fund balance, which includes amounts spendable that's not constrained for any particular purpose. And note 16 to the financial statements has a schedule detailing all the fund balances for all funds and any constraints put on those fund balances and what they're for. The Government Finance Officers Association recommends no less than 2 months of regular general fund operating revenues or expenditures in that unassigned fund balance. So at the end of 2023, the county had about 99 days of expenditures in that unassigned fund balance. So you did meet that minimum GFOA recommendation. Now your proprietary funds, you will find that the full statements on pages 28 to 31. Now, this consists of your enterprise funds, which is the delinquent tax payment, and the tax foreclosure funds. Both of these funds experienced increases in that position, and non-operating revenues and expenses increased over the prior year by about $150,000, and that entirely consisted of investment income. And so as you know, we're really seeing investment income increase again across all organizations. So that's really consistent with what we're seeing there. And note 14, contingencies, claims, and litigations discusses some additional information on the tax foreclosure funds and just some unknowns, since there is that class action lawsuit still that's ongoing for some years. And the last thing I want to discuss was a little bit more on GASB statement number 96. So subscription-based information technology arrangements, or SPITAs, it's a new standard that you must follow beginning with your fiscal year 2023. And a SPITA is a contract that conveys the right to use another party's information technology software for a period of time in exchange or exchange-like transaction. So this standard is very similar to the way you record leases now under GASB statement number 87, except where leases dealt with tangible assets. Now we're looking at something that's intangible. And under this new standard, just like with the leases, you would recognize a right of use SPITA asset as well as a SPITA liability. And the initial measurement of that would be the present value of the future subscription payments expected to be made over that subscription term. And then the asset would be amortized over the term, and the liability would be amortized and reduced, and you would recognize interest expense on that. So as of December 31, 2023, there were no SPITAs to recognize. However, I believe moving into the future, you most likely will have some to recognize. I think there maybe was one that began in 2024 that would fall under this standard. And just with the increase of, licensing, you probably will continue to experience and maybe see some SPITAs that require recognition. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions from any of our board members? Well, thank you, Chelsea. We appreciate the presentation today and your professional conduct and presentation. It was all done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse, for the books. Much better than last year.
To Kim and Carrie, because I know we asked so much of you guys during the audit and Jesse came in and helped us a lot too. He kind of started kind of during the audit already. So thank you three for helping us get through the audit and getting us through. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Should we ask for a motion to receive and file? I think, yeah. So I look for a motion to receive and file the auditor's report as presented.
I'll make that
I have
motion.
a motion from Commissioner Fernie, or do I have support? I have support from Commissioner Kozlowski. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion is carried and the audit report from 2023 is approved. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have Cindy Johnson from the Northern Michigan Materials Management Authority. Good morning.
This was taken up the last agenda because we was just change. So what this basically is when we started the process of looking for funds for the new facility, the new recycling facility. We asked for an appropriation through Senator Stabenow's office. At that time, and the recycling authority was not yet formed, we applied for the county. We were awarded $2.7 million, except that the money is directed to the county. So this was assigned to the USDA, so we are working with the USDA in order to get it back in this file. We need this resolution, and this may work and this may not work, but the USDA said if we can get the county to pass this resolution, they'll send it to their legal, and maybe then they can reassign the money back to NEMA. Who of course didn't exist when we. It simplifies things. It takes the county out of it. It puts it back in NEMA's file. You will not be responsible for reporting all of the things that come with this that we are currently working on. It will stay with recycling. So that is the purpose of this resolution. If you have any questions about it, I'm more than happy to.
Okay, so for the record, I know we don't like to do this all the time, but I will read the resolution that Mayor Johnson, Ms. Johnson has presented to the county board. So this is a motion to redirect congressionally directed spending for Alpena County for the Alpena Material Recovery Facility from the United States Department of Agriculture to the Northeast Michigan Materials Management Authority, commonly known as NEMA. Whereas Alpena County has been allocated funds in the amount of $2.7 million under congressionally directed spending through Senator Debbie Stabenow's office for development of the Alpena Material Recovery Facility, also known as the MRF. And whereas Alpena County is a member of the NMMA, an authority comprised of the constituent municipalities of the County of Alpena, City of Alpena, Charter Township of Alpena, and the townships of Green, Long Rapids, Maple Ridge, Osneek, Sanborn, Wellington, and Wilson. And whereas the development of a $5.5 million MRF in Alpena County will provide significant environmental, economic, and community benefits, including improved waste diversion rates, job creation, and long-term sustainability. And whereas the proposed MRF project encompasses critical phases, including design, engineering, site work, utilities, building construction, equipment acquisition, grant match requirements, and pre-construction costs. And whereas the NEMA is currently operating a recycling facility at 4395 M32 Alpena, Michigan, and is committed to the development and operation of a new MRF located at 1334 Airport Road, Alpena, Michigan. Whereas the NEMA is committed to advancing sustainable waste management practices and enhancing recycling infrastructure and providing materials management services in Northeast Michigan, and Alpena County is serving as the designated planning agency for the materials management planning for the counties of Alpena, Alcona, Oscoda, Iosco, and Montmorency. And now therefore be it resolved that the Alpena County Board of Commissioners hereby approves that the $2.7 million congressionally directed spending originally directed to Alpena County to the USDA for the Alpena Material Recovery Facility be directed from USDA to NEMA. So there, that is the resolution. So I'm going to look for a motion and support to approve the redirected congressionally directed spending.
Make that motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kozlowski. Do I have support?
I'll second.
I have support from Commissioner LaHaye. Is there any further discussion? Or any discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Lalone,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. Okay, the motion is carried and we will adopt that congressionally directed funding to the NEMA.
We will get it to them and see if that works. And I will stay for the letter of support that went out on that's in your, if you have any.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Or Mayor, depending on which hat you're wearing today. Yeah. Okay. So next is our county treasurer's monthly reports presentation. Ms. Ludlow.
So at the beginning of this year, you had an unrestricted fund balance of $3,597,408.09. Through July 31st, you've collected $4,766,566.30 with actual expenditures of $7,337,813.57, leaving a fund balance of $1,026,160.82 as of July 31st, of which $268,014 is reserved for unreserved at the end of July of $758,146.82. Perfect world, we'd be at 58% of our budgeted revenue and our budgeted expense. Revenues, we were at 40% last year, we were at 45. Expenditures were at 55%, and last year we were at 58. So I don't know if you've had an opportunity to review your comparison spreadsheet, but it does show for July of 23, we received $582,091.39 more than we spent. And for July of 24, we received $420.99 less than we brought in. The majority of that change was, you'll notice in the very first line, other revenue in July of 23 was $367,000. For July of 24, it was $93,685. The majority of that difference was we are not receiving money from the landfill. That was $150,000. And last year at that time, you also had, you had insurance recoveries of over 42,000. So that is the majority of your difference there. You also see the difference in taxes. We had received $870,660 in current operating taxes for July. This year, we received $566,854. So we did not receive our first disbursement of county operating from Alpena Township in July of this year, where we had last year. And the city disbursement was $40,000 less than the previous year.
Okay. Thank you. Anything further, Ms. Ludlow?
Not on this.
Not on this?
You guys have questions?
So, board members, do we have any questions for the treasurer on the monthly treasurer's report for the month of July 2024?
Motion receive and file.
I have a motion from Commissioner Peterson to receive and file the July 2024 report as presented. Do I support?
I'll support that.
I have support from Commissioner LaHaye. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion is carried.
I just have one comment. Sure. I just want to let you know, I like this spreadsheet or this second page that you've been giving us. It's been helpful.
Thank you.
So the motion has been carried and the treasurer's report for July will be filed. Next is the energy conservation bond payment.
So I am looking for permission to transfer the budgeted energy conservation payment of $45,700 from general fund, line item 101-272-995.001 to the capital improvement principal and interest fund, line item 363-906-699.001. This payment is due before the end of the month, and I do need this full amount to be able to make the payment.
Okay, so what I'm looking from the board is a motion and support to approve, to authorize the treasurer to transfer the budgeted energy conservation bond payment of $45,700 from general fund line item 101-272-995.001 to the capital improvements P&I fund line item number 363-906-699.001 as presented.
I'll make that
I
motion.
have a motion from Commissioner Kozlowski. Do I have support? And I have support from Commissioner Fournier. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. Thank you. The motion is carried. Next is the closeout on the base security fund. Ms. Ludlow, please.
So at this time, I'm looking for permission to transfer the balance of Fund 205, which is the base security fund, to the general fund, as this fund has been active since 2022. Previously, you guys have transferred all but this balance into the general fund to help shore up the budget. Again, this has had no activity, including no unemployment or anything since 22. The balance is $32,873.69.
Could you say that again? 32,000?
$32,873.69. And this would just be closing out that fund as it's not being used and the money's being transferred to the general fund. I'll bring a little more money in.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Fournier to approve to authorize the treasurer to transfer the balance of Fund 205 base security to the general fund as the fund has been inactive since the end of 2022 for the amount of $32,873.69. Do I have support?
Support.
I have support from Commissioner LaLonde. I would like to do a roll call on this, if you would, please.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. Okay, thank you. The motion is carried and the funds to be transferred to the general fund. Next is the transfer of additional jail levy funds to the general fund. Ms. Ludlow, please.
So we have budgeted $350,000 from the jail levy fund to the general fund jail corrections for 24. This $350,000 has already been transferred. The jail levy fund has a CD maturing at the end of this month on August 29th in the amount of $104,096.72 plus interest. I'm recommending that this CD be cashed out and the funds be transferred to the general fund / jail corrections, again, to help boost up or take care of some of our deficit. Your fund balance for the jail levy fund has $324,510.30 in that fund. I would not recommend completely wiping out that fund because if you have a major repair, you're going to need at least a couple $100,000 left in that levy fund. This levy fund is just that. This is just the money from the levy. It's to be used for the jail and for the operations of the jail and the building and repair.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Have any questions?
Okay, so I'm going to ask for motion support if there's any questions or discussion. So I have a motion from Commissioner Peterson to recommend approval to authorize the treasurer to cash out the jail levy fund CD maturing on 8/29/24 in the amount of $104,196.72 and transfer the funds to the general fund jail corrections as presented. Do I have support?
Support.
I have support from Commissioner Ludlow. Any questions or discussion?
I do.
Okay, please.
Treasurer Ludlow, how much was the CD taken out for previously?
That particular,
Yeah, particularly.
it's part of another CD. So
Okay.
yeah, that changes all the time.
Do you know how many years it was?
No, it's not years, it's months.
It's months.
We literally, because of cash flow with all the different funds, we really can't have anything more than 3 to 6 months. Because I am constantly switching things through.
Do you know how many we have going right now out of that fund?
Out of this fund too.
2.
Okay, all set.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions or discussion? Not roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes, the motion is carried. Funds can be cashed out and deposited in the general fund jail corrections as presented.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Next item on our agenda are budget adjustments. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the budget adjustments as presented.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner LaHaye to approve the budget adjustments as presented. Do I have support?
I'll support.
I heard support from Commissioner Fournier. Any discussion on the budget adjustments before we vote? No discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski, Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. The motion is carried for the budget adjustments as presented. Next, there's Sheriff. Morning, Sheriff.
Morning. So now that we just did the budget adjustments, our visa bill for this last month was held up because we didn't have enough money in one of our line items. So the clerk's office held our visa bill. So now that we made those budget adjustments, we're requesting that our visa bill be paid in the amount of $7,125.53. Before we go on, Commissioner Kozlowski pointed out a couple things in our invoice, and since he had the question, I'm sure the rest of you do. So I'll just answer those. I'm gonna have to do a tax on a couple of the bills. Obviously, county entity, we don't have, we're tax exempt. The one was for some animal control supplies. I had Kat Tomaszewski, the administrative assistant, get on that. She received an email back this morning from Amazon that we will be refunded our $10 in tax within the next couple days. So that was addressed. The other one was the Apple ID. We do pay, well, actually, we have several of these invoices. And I guess I got to explain what they are. We don't pay for cell phones for our deputies. We get old Apple phones that are no longer used. And we pay for this Apple ID app. It's $10. And then when the deputy in their car, they sync their phone and make an internet call through their car. So the phone number stays the same. They're able to make phone calls. They're able to text, and we only pay $10. And we get charged 60 cents tax. Apple insists that we have to pay. We've tried to get out of paying the tax, but the 60 cents for tax is a lot cheaper than for a phone service. So we've continued to do that. So that's what that is. And so, like I said, we got the refund on the other one, and then I wanted to explain to Apple. So we're requesting that we pay the visa bill for $7,000.
Okay, thank you, Sheriff. So I'm looking for a motion and support for the approval for the clerk's office to submit payment for the sheriff's office July 2024 visa bill in the amount of $7,125.53. So as not to pay the bill and not to incur late charges as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Peterson. Do I have support?
I'll support that.
Support from Commissioner LaHaye. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay,
Thank you.
so that, since that concludes our financial part of this meeting, I will look for a motion to rise and report and to close this committee meeting and turn it over to the chairman.
I'll make that
I have
motion.
a motion from Commissioner LaHaye. Do I have support? Support from Commissioner Ludlow. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Hearing none. Close out this portion of the meeting. Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so first thing we have here is the approval of the consent calendar, and I know Commissioner Francisco mentioned that he wanted to pull something.
Yes, the personnel minutes from the Personnel Committee meeting recently for discussion on the, specifically the hiring freeze.
Action is action.
I don't know what action, I pull it up here, I'm sorry. Say again, please.
Action item PC -1.
1B. Okay,
So we'll pull action item PC number 1B, you said?
That's correct.
Any other issues with the consent calendar? If not, I'd look for a motion to approve the consent calendar with the removal or with the action item being pulled.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Hay,
Support.
support by Commissioner Lalonde. Roll call.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
yes.
Commissioner Lalonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson, Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes,
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Yes. Okay, discussion of the action item PC number 1B.
right. It's the approval of a hiring freeze for all staff and positions until further notice, with the exception of those positions mandated by law or statute as presented. So my concern is there are some forecasted vacancies coming up here in the next, probably in the next quarter, 2 to 3 months, that would really inhibit the prosecuting attorney's office to continue to perform their duties. So even though there's an exception for mandated by law or statute, I'd like to have the approval, at least as an exception to policy, to replace currently filled but soon to be vacant positions.
Specifically for the prosecuting attorney, sir?
Oh, I want to open it up a little bit farther, but that is the one that's been brought to my attention, but there may be other specific or people are currently there that may leave or whatever. So to be able to look as an exception to policy, if there are any vacancies from the current authorized personnel that we have assigned.
At what months do you know are they going to?
I think about like the end of September-ish timeframe.
We don't have anybody here from the prosecuting attorney's office.
Now they were in court today.
So that's like 3 months before the end.
Well, to August, September, so 45 days-ish that we're looking at.
The only thing the only thing that I would, because when we made that motion, when we talked about that discussion in personnel, I think those vacancies should still come to us for request, because if we just say, because at some point, we know with the budget deficit that those hard choices, we call them the hard choices, we're cutting people. It's easier if there's a vacant position that we can cut. And I'm not saying with prosecutor attorneys, but I do think there could be, when we open it up to say that any current positions that are filled, if they become vacant, then we can refill them. I think it might be better for us to have those come to us, come to the full board, come to personnel to discuss whether we should fund that or fill that. Because again, if we're looking at making cuts, those cuts would be easier to make on vacant positions.
I understand that, but as the action item is presented, the only exceptions would be those mandated by law or statute.
Yeah.
I'm looking to extend it a little further, that authorizes elected officials in particular and department heads to ask for an exception to policy to backfill what they feel are critical positions, although maybe not mandated by law or statute.
So what would your motion be then to bring it back to the board?
Yeah, if we're going to do if we're going to approve a hiring freeze, allow for the caveat for department heads or elected officials to request an exception to policy to fill their vacancies. To the Board of Commissioners. Thank you. Yes.
First through the personnel, then through the board.
Yes. I mean, the exception to policy should go to the Personnel Committee and then to the full board, especially if we have anticipated vacancies that are going to be requested to be filled.
Do we have to have a motion for it? Why can't that, with the personnel committee, that resolution, why can't that be there? And then if there's an exception that gets brought to the attention, why can't that be evaluated on a case-by-case basis?
Well, the reason I bring it up is because right now there are creating, in the the action item or the motion is that the only exceptions to this hiring freeze are those that are mandated by law or statute. It doesn't open up the aperture enough, in my opinion, to allow them to provide the request for exception to policy with this particular way, the way it's written. There are no other exceptions to policy except for those mandated by law or statute is what this indicates.
So
My recommendation is have a hiring freeze for all staff and positions until further notice, period. Exceptions to policy will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis from the Personnel Committee to the Board of Commissioners.
okay,
Is how I would prefer. That way it opens the aperture for,
so you made that motion.
yes, I'm making that
And
motion.
then do we have support?
I'll support it.
You did, you supported? Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Francisco, support by Commissioner Peterson. I know we were discussing it, but do we need any other discussion? Would anybody else like to have discussion? So the motion is then to, what you said is to, we do have a hiring freeze. Any exceptions to policy would come to the personnel then to
Okay.
full board for approval.
Correct. It doesn't just limit it and constrain us.
So we're just adding that one.
Yeah. I would say to remove the as mandated by law or statute and just leave it as exception to policy. So the hiring freeze for all staff and positions until further notice, period. Exceptions to policy can be presented by department heads and elected personnel as needed.
Well, I think if they want that position filled, they will.
Yes, they have to request, again, I'm just eliminating those, except for those positions mandated by law or statute. Eliminate that piece and allow department heads and elected officials to present exceptions to policy, i.e. the hiring freeze, to fill what they feel are critical vacancies.
Okay. So we have a motion and support. Any further discussion? If not, then why don't we do roll call?
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Lalone,
No.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
No.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the next item is a poll vote that we had for the purchase of an old to purchase a new trailer for the roads and grounds because of the issues, concerns with the old trailer. And everyone got that information. The poll went out. This is again just for informational. The motion passed. I believe everyone was part of that. Yep, everyone was part of that. So that, again, that was just informational. So we did purchase the new trailer. The next item is the Northeast Michigan Material Management funding gap letter, which Cindy had mentioned. Basically, what this was, part of the recycling committee. We discussed getting a memo letter to all the governmental entities within the county for support. That gap letter is basically going to go to the state to, go ahead.
And I used it the other day when I had a meeting with Pam Cabot. So he's going to do what he can on the state level. These letters will be forwarded to his office and any office that they're dealing with, as letters of support. Each
Yeah. So basically, we're taking the same letter, all the government, all the townships got the letter. We're supposed to take it back, so we're having that, was at the end of this month, so by the next meeting, trying to get all that. So,
you can take and modify this letter, but put it on your letterhead.
Yeah.
Sign it and get it back.
so if everyone's good with the letter, what we'll do is we'll put it on county letterhead and get it back to the recycling committee. So with that, I guess I'd look for a motion to accept that letter for Alpena County.
I'll support that.
So we got a letter. We got support by Commissioner LaHaye.
Or
Support by Commissioner Peterson. Any further discussion? Are you guys all good with the way that the letter reads? If so, we'll just put it on our letterhead. Okay, with that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
Thank you, Jesse, for explaining that when I called you yesterday.
Okay, next item is under County Administrator Jesse.
Second here, bring this up. All right, so the November ballot language. So obviously, I think everybody here knows for the most part that we are seeking to try again, asking voters to reconsider the millage that we put on prior, or the new tax limitation rather. The two biggest concerns that we had heard from individuals during this process, both from Commissioner's office as well as other department heads, was the lack of clarity. They thought it was just too wordy, as well as the lack of a cap. So we tried finding language that was clear, a little bit more to the point, shorter, and then also we did enter in a 4-year cap as well. So basically there's 2 action items needed from the board to complete this, and we do have to have this to the clerk today by 4 p.m. To meet the deadline. So according to MCL 211.205K, state the relevant part that the separate tax limitation shall be promptly transmitted to the County Board of Commissioners and the functions of the committee shall then cease. This requires transmission of the results of the committee's work to the county board, which we did, followed by the submission. And then basically it implies that the county board would then have to receive and file that resolution into your records that becomes part of official record rather. And then the second action item is approving the ballot language, which is the resolution by the county board. So you should have both in front of you. So that's the first item would be to accept and file the Alpena County Advisory Tax Limitation Committee's resolution to alter the fixed separate tax limitations for Alpena County.
Okay, so why don't we look for I'll look for a motion for that first.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Malone. I'll support. Support by Commissioner Francisco. Any discussion on that? If not, roll call, please.
I have a question. So, and I apologize if this is dumb anyway. Is it possible, because I know when we were kind of looking at it before, like the average that it would cost like a taxpayer, we kind of like $46 for the year. Is it possible, like I can go down literally with my address and, put in my information and find out literally how much that would affect me?
It's a great question. So actually, Ted's office has been working diligently for the last week, putting together the formula into an Excel format. And we are working with IT to then get that onto our webpage where if people put in their parcel number, their tax ID number, it'll actually tell them exactly what they're going to be paying.
Okay. So do you know like a time frame? I mean, is that too much to ask? Could you speak to this a little bit? Do you have?
Yeah, we
You
have
mind?
done that in our office and we actually currently have it done. Right now, you can only search parcel ID number. So we would like to get it on the website, but there's a problem right now that we're trying to overcome is the online Excel version does not accept formulas from the search bar. We're trying to get the IT department to work through that issue currently. So as soon as we can, it's ready to go, but we can only search parcel ID right now. We might be able to open up the address, but that might get a little tricky with a lot of people having the same number. So we thought we'd leave it at the parcel ID number, but it's currently ready to go and it works pretty well. Give you a breakdown of what the county increase would be, the township ISD, and then a total in a per month cost. So
Okay.
we've got it all ready to go. It's just a matter of whether we're gonna be able to get it on the website in a format that can be used. So.
This would be a nice thing that people could, not everybody comes to this meeting, not everybody watches on Zoom. This would actually be nice information that could actually go out to the taxpayers, just throwing that out there. But I mean, that is the difference. Like, I think sometimes we hear tax and we're like, okay, well, if it's $4 and that means there's still going to be all the current road patrol that we have, I'm fine with $4, but I would like to personally, as a taxpayer, I would like to know specifically, is it $4? Is it $20? Like, just, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfectly exact, but I would like to get close. I like that. That's in.
I know the last time you put together a kind of a breakdown of how many parcels, and I think, I don't remember the number, but the majority of those parcels just a small percentage of them were above that average number of whatever it
It was
was.
$4 was the average number.
Is, Chairman, it was around approximately 22,100 parcels. Out of that number, about 75% of voters would be paying $4 or less per month extra.
Okay,
So we've been fielding phone calls in my office and giving people, if they call, we can let them know exactly what it would be based on this year's taxable value.
So it sounds like it's $4.88 a month was the average.
We haven't done an average. We just, when people have called, we've taken their taxable value and what township they're in, or, same thing, the city one's coming on, and explained to them the difference between right now and what it would be if the ones pass.
Okay.
So.
so we have the motion to support. No other questions? Roll call.
Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Yes.
Then Chairman, the second action item would be approving the ballot language. You'll find that in the resolution of the Alpena County Board of Commissioners 24-22. You'll see it as number 4 with the title, and it does right onto the second page. Apologies for that.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve that language.
I'll make that motion.
So motion by Commissioner Lalonde. Support by Commissioner Ludlow.
Thank you.
Any discussion, any other discussion? If not, roll call.
Commissioner Peterson, Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Yes. Okay. Then the next item you have is the
Resolution for the airport lots.
Are you
So
gonna read this resolution and to approve it?
would you like?
It's my understanding for the resolutions to be on record, they're supposed to be read in the meeting
Okay, my mistake.
and voted on. I don't believe this resolution was actually voted on. Voted on,
We were told to accept and file the resolution from the separate tax limitation committee and then to approve the ballot language.
right, so you're not approving this resolution.
They did that in special committee full board yesterday.
Oh, okay,
That one was read in yesterday. We were told this would just have to be accepted and filed.
okay.
for tax
I'm just trying to make sure we have
No,
all of
I
our i's dotted and our t's crossed.
I appreciate it. Okay, so on the airport lots, I apologize, 1 second here. The title company requested one last resolution just to authorize final conveyance and or mortgaging of the subject properties. That also included the legal description, and also clarified who can sign off on that final act. So that resolution was created with the chairman, being able to sign off, or me as a second should he be unavailable.
So everyone's got a copy of the legal description. Just look for a motion to accept that legal, is it a corrected legal description or just?
They wanted it attached with
Okay.
description.
So I'd look for a motion to approve this legal commission.
Again, as Commissioner, or as Treasurer Ludlow has indicated, this is a resolution and this one hasn't yet been read into the record. So I think, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to do that for the record.
Would you like me to go for
If you
it?
want to, this is,
Well, I don't know if we want to. I think
no, I know, but I'm just saying,
I'll go through it. Alpena County Board of Commissioners resolution to authorize the conveyance or mortgaging of subject property and naming the party authorized to execute the conveyance or mortgage. Whereas the County of Alpena put up for sale to the public lots located as described in Exhibit A, and whereas Mr. Dwayne Jennings of Hillman, Michigan expressed interest in 2 of the lots for purchase and or exchange of services to develop the property for use. And whereas the Alpena County Board of Commissioners in their last meeting held on June 25th, 2024 agreed to the sale/exchange. And whereas the chairman of the Alpena County Board of Commissioners, John Kozlowski, was granted authority by the board to sign the final contract. And whereas the title company is requesting this resolution authorizing the conveyance or mortgaging of subject property as defined in the attachment Exhibit A and the naming of the authorized party to execute the conveyance or mortgage. Therefore, be it resolved that the Alpena County Board of Commissioners resolves to authorize the conveyance or mortgaging of the subject property as defined in the attachment Exhibit A to Mr. Dwayne Jennings of Hillman, Michigan, and does name their chairman, John Kozlowski, to execute the conveyance or mortgage. Be it further resolved that should John Kozlowski, chairman of the Alpena County Board of Commissioners, be unable to execute the conveyance or mortgage of the aforementioned properties, that the Alpena County Administrator Jesse Osborne may act on his behalf. And then it has the vote counts and certification.
So we did have a motion and support. Roll call, I guess. Brittany, you got a lot of work over there with all these roll calls.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Yes. Okay, motion approved. The resolution is approved.
The final item is the Alpena Senior Citizen Center roof, which we attached the invoice. So this particular one, hold on a minute.
So do you want me to address this?
Yeah, if you, I was going to, if you have it.
So we've had a little bit of a disconnect. So within the older person's fund, on the balance sheet, you have a reserve line item that says capital outlay equipment buildings. There's $38,230 in that line item. That line item, even though we no longer own the building, that money can only be spent on repairs to that building. And that is in the documentation from the sale of that building in 2020. It specifically lays out the current fund balance of residual senior millage and at that time it was 39,500, is earmarked for renovations and maintenance of the senior center and will remain in the county and will be available for the seniors to draw down until exhausted. Okay. So that gives you that history there. There was a little bit of a disconnect. Back the first part of June, the finance director for the Senior Citizen Center contacted me to see, what's the process. I indicated that this would have to go to the board to be approved. And left it at that. That was my not being clear because when I said it'd have to go to the board, she was thinking it had to go to the older persons committee board to be approved. So, and then I was left out of the conversation from the 1st of June until here July 8th or August 8th. Evidently what happened is the Senior Citizen Center had emailed the chairman of the Older Persons Committee and sent, I believe this is just a quote, sent a quote and it was requesting, can we have this money? And the chairman from the Older Persons Committee forwarded an email to the commissioner's office and somehow it just kind of sat because anyways, long story short, on August 8th, the Senior Citizen Center reached out to the chairman of the older persons and copied myself on the email this time and said, hey, how things coming with us being approved for our roof? It's almost done. Yeah. So I finally got a chance to, the chairman of the Older Persons Committee felt that he was doing what needed to be done when he forwarded the information to the commissioner's office. Senior Citizen Center initially thought they were doing what they needed to be done, and here we are. This money to be spent has to be approved by 2/3 vote of this board. Historically, and this hasn't been done since 2020, what would happen is the Senior Citizen Center would come to the full board with a request to be able to spend the money, would be bringing you quotes or bids, because this is a $13,000 bill. Actually, they haven't received the bill yet. We just have the quote. But the roof is almost completed. When I spoke to their finance director this morning, she said they had to do the roof. It was raining in the kitchen. It was either do it or close the kitchen.
So did you say that they did not get a couple quotes? They only got one quote?
So I have been left out of the conversation other than on the 1st of June and then on August 8th.
We were only shared the one.
Right, that, to my understanding, only the one quote has been presented. So historically, Senior Citizen Center would have come and said, hey, can we do this? Will you cover it? I would have, hoped that this board would vote, yeah, we can spend this money, but you would still look for this to be within your purchasing policy. So you'd be looking for quotes and you would look for a bill to Alpena County, not to the Senior Citizen Center. So we'd like to try and start moving towards getting this miscommunication mess cleaned up. We just kind of need to know what you guys want to do.
Well, obviously, we need to, we're already finished the roof, so,
Yeah, the roof's pretty much done.
yeah.
Treasurer Ludlow, that was all millage money though?
Yes, this is all millage money and it's set aside. Doesn't have anything to do with your general fund. It's right on the balance sheet. Again, that this money can only be spent for repairs to that facility. But it also can only be spent by 2/3 vote of this board.
I'd like to make a motion that we transfer $13,473 to the Alpena Senior Center line item.
See, I don't even have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't even.
I mean, I know which one it'd be.
Right.
It's, I believe it's 975, but don't quote me at this time. But again, then you're paying them directly rather than, but again, if that's what you want to do.
Well,
So will
shouldn't they come present to us? I mean, so that we can do it the right way with the right amount coming out of what line item?
Yes, that would be.
I'm sorry. Well, not only that, but are we putting ourselves in any kind of jeopardy since we went to a sole source provider versus anybody having an opportunity to bid?
well,
What
we
kind of
don't know.
jeopardy?
Yeah, we don't know that.
Who was that billed to?
Meridian.
The billed to?
The quote says Meridian.
And it's Annie Hepburn.
And who was what sent to?
Who was the final bill sent to?
It hasn't been sent to anyone yet.
Anyone yet?
Yeah.
It's an estimate.
When I spoke to their finance director this morning, they still have not received the bill.
Just the estimate that we're seeing.
But the roof
Right.
is done.
Not yet.
Almost.
Well,
Close.
it's, yeah.
We'll have this by full board then at
Yeah.
the end of the month. so
Yeah.
it could be. They could
Yeah,
present
Does
it
it have to
full
be
board.
billed? It would have to be billed to the Alpena County, correct? Because we have the money.
Yeah.
And we don't pay other people's
So-
bills.
Right.
Otherwise, I'd give you my Discover card bill.
Right.
I'm next.
Jesse,
Yeah.
show Annie Hepburn
I haven't known.
final bill and bring it to the board. And just maybe a little more detailed information than we would have that instead of just,
So
and
you have something more solid.
yes, I think that would be great.
And again, I apologize for the disconnect.
That's
I
okay.
kind of feel like initially, when they called me the 1st of June and I did not specify that it was the county board of commissioners that had to approve it rather than the older persons committee.
That's okay. It sounds like normal protocol wasn't like followed anyways.
And we don't do this very often. Like I
Right.
said, the last time any of this money was spent was in 2020.
Okay, so we'll just bring this back to full board then with
Okay.
the discussion from.
After the 27th.
Okay.
Love it.
And invite seniors.
Our motion?
She, well, she never.
Didn't finish it, okay.
Robert?
Was on repairs. I'm so
You
sorry.
withdrawing that motion?
I'm withdrawing my motion. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. I apologize. You're on my bad side.
Okay, so that'll move forward to the full board and we'll get additional information then.
Right.
Next up would be Mike Mahler, Economic Development Director.
I'm guessing you're very disappointed.
Just getting warmed up, Mike.
All day.
I hope this goes for 3 more hours.
I know Jeff's got a deadline he's got to get to, so I know I'm the one thing holding him between that and getting to the clerk's office to get that language in the ballot. So good morning, Mike Mahler from Target Alpena. It's my opportunity for my semi-annual update to the Board of Commissioners. So first, thank you for your support of our work. I'm going to assume everybody read my report, so I'm not going to read it to you. I will allow you to ask questions of me. And I also brought with me 2 colleagues today. Lenny's here to answer questions because you've all heard from Lenny. You know him, but I'm also going to let Joe Carr, I'm going to yield the podium to him for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, just talk a little bit about program he's working on, and I don't think any of you had a chance to hear from Joe yet. So I guess it's in balance. I mean, economic activity remains good in spite of, we've had a few setbacks here locally, but on average, considering the cost of money, cost of materials, lack of access to contractors, things are still going quite well here. Target as an organization, a little over a year and a half ago, we had one person. Today we're up to 6. We are fulfilling our mission far better today than we ever have by bringing in subject matter experts. And again, as an organization, I think it positions us better to help serve this county, help serve this community, help serve Northeast Michigan by bringing in the people we have to do this work. I'll just touch on DPI. That caught me off guard, like most of you. I had no pre-knowledge of that event having taken place. Matter of fact, Steve Schulwitz called me and said, "Hey, what do you know about DPI?" I had no idea what he was talking about. So I don't have any updates for you other than I've been reaching out to the folks at DPI to encourage them to initiate a conversation with local stakeholders. But when I say local stakeholders, I'm not sure who all that means, but clearly the county, the city, maybe people on the north side of town, the DDA, since the property falls in the DDA, that'd be willing to facilitate a conversation about an orderly transition of that property, or I'm not sure what their intent is here. And I don't expect them to tip their hand to me at this point here, because I'm sure it's complicated, but I'm going to continue to reach out to them and ask them for an opportunity to sit down and kind of talk about how we might all work together to facilitate a faster process here. I just know from my days as a banker, sometimes situations like this could take years to unwind. I prefer not to have this take years if at all possible. So to that end, I'm going to continue to encourage them to allow us an opportunity to kind of chat about it. I do know they do have a realtor who's actively trying to sell that property. I do know that. I'm not sure how many interested parties there are, but I know they're actively working with somebody. Jump into grant programs, we did establish at MEDC's Michigan Economic Development Corporation Small Business Hub here locally through a grant, and that Joe is leading that up. Joe will talk a little bit more about that and what that means, but the reality is what we're trying to do here is small businesses are the lifeblood of most of our communities. At the end of the day, most of the jobs are in and around small businesses. So their well-being is in our best interest to watch out for. And so to that end, we pursued a grant that the state made available, and we secured $2 million, a little over $2 million to support not just this county, but a couple other adjacent lakeshore counties. One of the elements, and we're bringing Joe in here, one of the elements he's got a lot of experience with in his role down in Lansing in a similar capacity was in smart zones. And so one of our long-term goals is try to position ourselves as an area to establish a smart zone here. And I defined what a smart zone is, which is classified as a region where there is growing technology and innovation hub with the right resources and accelerators available to facilitate entrepreneurial collaboration and incubation for new and emerging businesses. I've got a couple of unique things here in this area, and I think it positions us well to focus on them and how that might be the catalyst for the establishment of a smart zone. There is none in all of northern Michigan. And so I think if we're going to have one here, and so to that end, Joe is being invited to those meetings, at least talk about it anyway. I'll just touch on the DDA. I know I'm here talking about Target, but I'm also involved in the DDA, and so much what I do interweaves with so many other things, including county, city. The DDA director was able to secure a grant for $470,000 for facade improvements. That amount has largely been committed now to several properties throughout the DDA, several of which are in the expanded boundaries, which you all participated in. And again, we thank you for your support of that initiative. And now you're going to see some of the benefits from it. We've got, along with that, we added 4 new board members, 3 of which are in the expanded boundaries under our DDA board. So they have a voice in what's happening. We also did create a residential program for improvements, something that's new to us, that it also encompasses not only the former existing boundary, but also the new boundary as well.
Sir, could you tell us who were the new 4 board members?
Ben Young, Bill Peterson.
Eric, probably Eric.
I'm sorry, I said Bill. I'm sorry, Bill. Freddie and Slim.
Oh, it's either of them.
Yeah, all the Petersons are involved in the restaurant space here, so it's kind of interesting. Anyway, so Lauren Jackson, and then Mary Tolan Halleck, whose family, her and her husband own Clem's north side. So 4 new board members. Melissa. So Owen Halleck, correct. Thank you for that. And so, yeah, so those are our 4 new board members. And so I think we've got a great representation now from the expanded boundary. And then I'll just also touch on 2 projects that have come to life, one of which is an absolutely a direct result of your expansion of boundary. He came to me with the specific, now that the boundary's been extended and it includes this parcel, I'm buying it because I want to improve it. And that's a big white parcel. So we don't know what's going to happen long-term with that, but I can tell you the genesis for his interest in that property and desire for what he wants to do with it was all created as a result of this, because he unlocked the tools that are necessary to bring a project like what he's thinking to life, which I don't have a lot of details on it at this point here. Be inappropriate to talk about them. It's his project, not ours, but I can tell you directly it happened as a result of this. And so that's exactly the intent. Another parcel, similar end of the expanded DDA boundary also. I was really excited when the commissioners took action to allow for that, because they also intend on integrating the look and feel of our existing downtown into some project that they've got planned for theirs in the expanded boundary area. So again, I think that the time and energy and commitment on your part was well suited for our community going forward. With respect to the APC site, we're talking about this for a long time, the parcel and our on Second Avenue at the bridge there that was formerly Alpena Power. Target owns that site. Been working with a developer for a long time on that, trying to bring that project to life here. What they'd like to do is put 66 units of apartments there on top of retail space here. We still have hurdles to clear. It's not a done deal yet. We're getting much closer to a decision point though. Like what I can tell you is that we being the city and Target, helped secure or the Brownfield Authority, an Eagle grant to help clean up that site and to prepare that site for a project like that. And so we're working right now with, I'm trying to get Eagle to allow the developer to do that work now. We know that if they allow the developer to spend $1 million cleaning up that parcel and getting it ready, then that's going to commit them further to the project. And so we're now trying to work through what that might look like. And I don't have answers for that yet, although I do know the developer is basically kind of cast the end of the month to make the decision here with respect to that project. Obviously, we'll continue to do everything we can to make it happen. Fletcher paper, we applied through a grant through the county. Lenny did to have a targeted demolition of the paper mill. Unfortunately, we scored just below the cut line and our project was not supported. It still remains a priority for the city, remains a priority for the owner of that property to take it down, remains a priority for Target to see that building come down. So we're going to continue to pursue that. Whatever angles or opportunities exist that would allow for that, we're going to continue to pursue with vigor.
Just one question on that.
Yeah,
That, from what I know, is a selected demolition,
that was a selected demolition.
not a complete.
Right. Yeah, they're intending on leaving certain walls up that they can incorporate into the project, because of the historical value and, rather than just taking a bulldozer, just clearing it all away. And I agree. I think it would be pretty cool if you could take a building that was built in the 1800s and leave a wall up that could be integrated into the final product. So that was their vision, which made it a little more expensive, a little more complicated. But again, in this particular case, the property owner is willing to put up, I think, 1/3 of the cost of this, which is measured in the millions. This is not a cheap proposition. Take that building down. City property north of town. So the city's got a parcel of road. A lot of you, if you live north of town like I do, there's that road that goes into nowhere. The road to nowhere now have been renamed Hemlock. And finally, the city sold a parcel, get to that road, and a new Edward Jones office is going in there as we speak right now. It's about complete. I think that it's a new office, an additional office. You're not closing one and moving to that one. It's an additional office here. I think that they'll be moving to that here end of the summer. So it's coming fast. Just beyond that, we have a couple of parcels that have been selected by another developer who's been coming up here since the COVID years, 2020, 2021. Finally getting much closer to pulling the trigger and purchasing the property, put independent living and memory care and senior living there, essentially right alongside that project. And so that's a big project. It does a lot to help our housing situation here because there's going to have 60-something independent, I think 88 approximately independent living units, which means people that are living in homes that are too much for them could sell and make those houses available to others in the community where we have a housing shortage. And so hopeful that comes to light here pretty quickly. I know that I've seen the renderings, I've seen the time frame for this, but it still have to get through a process to purchase that land from the city. And so that's in play right now. You're talking about 140,000 square feet of building now. And if you do the math, if it costs $250 to $300 a square foot to build, and someone's building 125,000 square feet, you're talking about $35 million investment in this community, into this county to grow your tax base. And so that'd be meaningful. I mean, it'd be meaningful improvement for everybody's budgets here. Aldi's open, you know, I only mentioned Aldi here just because that thing's been such a long time in coming, and there's not been a project I've been involved with more, and I got more public feedback on that one, honestly. Exciting to finally see that open in our community. CRTC had the groundbreaking last fall for their fifth generation hangar. It's great to know that our CRTC will become a more viable, hopefully more relevant military asset and help continue its support of this community. So I'm grateful that, you know, Senator Peters was able to be involved in helping secure the funding for that. I don't know what the timing is for its finish, but I know that I was part of the groundbreaking last fall. PACE is coming to town, Program for All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. That's a state-funded program. They're right now working inside of Peoples to repurpose that store in the Bear Point Plaza to allow for them to help seniors within a certain within income limits anyway. But the whole idea behind the PACE program is to allow seniors to stay in their homes longer. And so glad to see them coming to town here. Also, Thunder Bay Shopping, we all know that we've got an Ollie's coming in there. I don't know what the timing is for either one of those at this point here, but it's just glad to see a couple of assets on the south side of town that were underutilized, getting some capital investment in them. With respect to the airport lots at M32, you all know the story here, even took action today here. I know that the buyer, Mr. Jennings, is very excited about getting going here. I know he's not closing a lot because of title issues. One thing I would say is that we've got 4 other parcels over there. I think the county might want to consider maybe starting a little bit preliminary title work so as to not create these kinds of delays. Mr. Jennings has been really here as this whole thing has played out. It's been months and months, and you know, so maybe to help facilitate a little faster transaction, I would maybe encourage the county to consider just some preliminary title search work on those other 4 remaining lots there to help facilitate local transactions. Aplex, I am involved with this Plaza Pool project in conversations on the steps associated with potentially a pool replacement. The extent of my involvement with that is to help kind of financially model what it might look like if you were to look under different operating scenarios, trying to combine them all into a single entity, et cetera, et cetera. And so I've gotten the constituent parts from all of the entities involved and have financially married them together. And so that's kind of my role in this process, to kind of figure out how we pay for it. Or what it might look like financially, not how we pay for it. My role is to figure out what it looks like and what it needs. Recycling, I've had a very limited role in that, other than just simply looking at loan documents and or opportunities for credit extension. They've asked me to look at that. That's the extent of my support there. Housing does remain certainly one of the biggest issues that we face here today in terms of challenges. And so one of the things that's certainly brought forth for us, you know, stepping back for a moment, Target Alpena stepped up to the plate and took on the responsibility for the Region E leadership when MSHDA announced this new program. That's 11 counties. We did it because no one else wanted to. And frankly, having a voice at the table, we felt like would better serve us anyway. So to that end, Lenny's been the person responsible for that work. But now we're kind of at this crossroads right now about where does it really belong? And so there's consideration by my board to maybe look at the establishment of a separate entity, because Target really shouldn't be leading this charge in 11 counties. We're Alpena, Presque Isle centric. That's our mission. That's our organization is built around kind of supporting these 2 counties. And so, so there's been a lot of consideration given to the formation, if there's interest, the formation of a housing standalone unit that's outside of Target. Maybe it's not even outside of Target. Maybe it's inside of Target, but its own board of directors, its own bylaws, its own operating priorities not being set by Target. And so there could be a conversation that we'll ask you to be a party to about what level of interest you might have in being involved in that endeavor, in that effort. Lenny did secure a Region E housing needs assessment. So the 11 counties, there's a grant that we were able to secure to do a full-on needs assessment across all 11 counties. Interested in compare that Alpena County results with the county, with the survey that we just did here in a year and a half ago on our Alpena Housing Task Force. And then we have a loan fund. I've made 5 loans this year. I'm closing another one tomorrow to help support our local businesses. And I guess at that point, I will leave it there and just open the floor for questions of me before I invite Joe to come up here and just introduce himself.
You went, talked about the Ollies. I guess my thing that popped into my head on that one is, is that a new owner or is that a rented space?
Rented space. Yeah, rented space. And there's a restaurant that opened up in that same shopping center there too, where Mango's used to be, Mango's Express. They just opened here a couple of weeks ago. And so again, you know, people call me and, you know, for instance, when the Aldi store was coming around and people are reaching out to me saying, why don't you just make them go where Neiman's is? Like, okay, yeah.
Like make them.
Just make them go where I want them to go because of course, we steer people in that direction. There's space available. Would you consider this? But right now, the M32 corridor seems to be the most, and interest creates interest, right? And momentum creates momentum. And there's a lot going on over there that brings more eyes to the community. Everybody continues to focus on M32. And I'm grateful we have an M32. I mean, the one thing I'm reminded of, we've got 6 people working in our organization today doing a lot of really good things, but it's not this way everywhere we go. Just look around Northern Michigan. Not every community is experiencing the kind of good things that we've got going on. And we're really fortunate. And I don't take credit for that. I'm just one small cog in a bigger wheel of kind of people all leaning in and helping. And so I'm grateful for the interest that exists here. I'm grateful we have an M32. I'm grateful we have a CRTC. I'm grateful for a lot of the opportunities that exist here today that I think a lot of us take for granted living.
Just a lot of exciting things happening. I didn't even know about a bunch of this. So I really appreciate your update.
Not everything goes through me. So there could be things that are going on that I am totally out of. I heard the other day that we have maybe a franchise restaurant coming to town. And I'm like, I know nothing about that. So not everything that's going on would I be aware of. Some people just don't need our assistance and it's fine. I'm not offended, but if they want our assistance, they'll get it for sure. And so I hope that there's more things happening in the back that I could come back at some point here and talk about that are off my radar right now. Anybody else have anything for me? We told Joe 3 minutes, 5 tops. As he talked a little bit about how he's going to help make this even better. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mike.
Morning, everyone. My name is Joe Carr. I'm the Small Business Development Director at Target Alpena. I was a local kid. I grew up in Rogers City and then moved away, and I spent years in the startup world before becoming an economic developer. I was very eager to return to Northeast Michigan with my family, and I'm pleased to be serving small businesses within our community. As Mike mentioned, Target Alpena was the recipient of a small business support hub grant from the MEDC totaling $2.1 million. Of that, $400,000 is reserved for grants for companies. There were 27 hubs that were selected across the state, and we were one of 3 that received its full funding request. We serve 5 counties, including Alpena, Alcona, Sheboygan, Iosco, and Presque. And this is all through September 30th, 2026. That's the end of the grant program. So Alpena is the population and geographic center of our region that's covered by the grant. So it's a focal point for a lot of the outreach and many of our programs that will be taking place here. As such, we have several staff members that will be serving small businesses within the county, and that includes Tim Rogwelski, Small Business Development Center, and myself. We also have Anna Sangster, who is primarily covering Sheboygan and Presque County, and Tammy Klein, who's covering Iosco County. Both of them will be supporting our efforts here in Alpena County from time to time. So our process with working with small businesses begins with getting our feet in the street, knocking on doors, visiting businesses within the community, and as part of a regional outreach effort. And then from there, we interact and drive companies through our intake process, where we identify key challenges and roadblocks to build a custom work plan. And part of that work plan involves selecting programming and funding opportunities to help drive outcomes such as increased sales and growth in small businesses. To date, we've interacted with over 40 small businesses within the county. And in the coming months, we are launching several major programs and opportunities. And this includes an innovation lab where we're going to have 10 companies receive 12 months of curriculum and guidance, a succession planning workshop for those small business owners that are considering retirement or selling their business. And then we also are going to be utilizing an award-winning mentorship program. Soon we'll be announcing our first round of direct grant opportunities for companies. And with these major initiatives, we expect the number of clients served to greatly increase. And we've been coordinating with partners at all levels from local to state. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
So moving on to the next item, we have another public comment. 3 minutes. Anyone in the room who wants to give a public? If not, anybody online? No one online? Okay, so we'll move on from public comment. The next item would be Commissioner Ledline.
I'd like to read this prepared statement. I was going to talk about input from the gallery, but we didn't get any, so we'll just go past that. I'm not a speech maker or writer. I'm a person who tries to do their homework, listen to the input of everyone else, try to make the best decision I can on the information I have. I don't know about the other commissioners, but the input I've received from the emails, text, calls is very one-sided. I would say that 75% was to remove the library board and maybe 25% to keep the library. After listening to the commissioners at the last full board meeting, where this issue was discussed at length, it sounded to me that the other commissioners were getting about the same type of input that I was receiving. So to accuse this board of not listening to our constituents, you are very wrong. This issue has been ongoing for a very long time. I cannot imagine that many in Alpena County has not heard of it, good or bad. During all this time, almost 2 years, this board has met twice a month, every month. Where was all the concern from our constituents for the commissioners to keep the library board? Commissioners, after much discussion, made a very hard decision to evaluate the library board and then get mad, blame the commissioners for making the wrong decision to evaluate the board. That's not on the commissioners. That's on you for not voicing your concerns and opinions to your county commissioners in the first place. All this time, I never heard anyone on this board say that the library is not essential and not important to the county of Alpena. We feel it is. Never heard anyone say that we should shut down the library. The only concern I heard was about the books in question. And no one said we should ban or remove them from the library. Just to move them to a more age-appropriate area or at least put some sort of warning on them. I personally think the library is essential. It has many good programs to offer the public. I think the library board members are the ones who are not listening to the public input, trying to make some sort of compromise. I read an article on this library issue, and it's not the first time the board has been asked to review some books at the library. I believe that if the library board was actually serious about changing their policies or challenges, they could have done so already. Decision was never about the library itself, but it was always been about the library board members. After this board made the hard decision to evaluate the library board, the group that was against it, millage, said they would now support the millage and take down their signs, which probably led to the passage of the millage.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Ledlow. You said you needed to say something?
Yes, I had a question I wanted to ask Jesse.
Okay.
It was about the boys club and the girls club.
Yes.
Have you heard any more?
We did meet with them and there's going to be future meetings on it, but yeah, they're basically, they are looking at utilizing it, and as long as they're utilizing it, which they are currently, they neglected to mention that during my previous inquiries, but they notified us during our meeting, so
Okay,
they're in compliance right now, and
so they have, regular hours,
they have groups that use the gymnasium there for practice.
and they have regular hours.
From my understanding, yeah, they're scheduled, so yes, those.
Yeah, so the YVC is.
They have, staff there on site.
I can't speak to,
Facility?
yeah, I can't speak to whether they have staff there.
They have,
I can answer some of that.
Could I please finish?
You're fine. I have some of the answers.
Have they been advertising that they're open to the public, certain hours with staff on hand?
I can check on the public, but I know they've been advertising with the schools and the different athletic groups. So I can check.
Because if they're, don't want to sell it, and they said they have it open for basketball or whatever, then with our contract with them, they should have certain hours, staff on hand, and advertising that it is open.
So the lease with them only states that it must be used for youth recreation or to serve the youth development. It doesn't specify how they would execute that, but I can look into these questions for you certainly and get back to you.
Because right now, all they have is storage in there.
Okay.
well, they
I've
are-
been
they
there
are-
and I haven't seen any staff there. In fact, it wasn't even open. So,
I can look into this.
yes, because the taxpayers are hollering that we're not doing what we should be doing. Show us that you are going to do to help our budget. Well, I'm gonna start bringing up stuff that we're not doing to help our budget.
Okay. All right. I will.
And maybe the taxpayers say, hey, they are gonna start to do something. Because if they're not gonna have certain hours, have staff and advertising, then maybe we should take that building back and put it up for sale. Or they should put it up for sale. Thank you.
I'll look into that.
I can speak to that. So I actually am incredibly knowledgeable. A lot of people, I don't know if you don't know this. I was a board member for the Boys and Girls Club for 8 years. I was also a Michigan representative for 4. That building is being utilized for YVC, which is a branch of the Boys and Girls Club. That is weekly, if not almost daily. The majority of the kids are obviously at the new building, but that building is used for lots of lessons. They're doing specialized programming there. And of course, when there is specialized programming there, the kids are there with staff members. They did recently hire some new staff members. That building is actually being utilized on average about 8 hours a day, more so than like a regular business. It is being used for way more than storage. A lot of their exercise classes are happening there. Some of the specialized financial classes that they've been holding. And then they're looking to some new programming that they want to utilize that building. And then, of course, definitely the gym space is being utilized 3 times a week during the day with some of the kids. It's actually worked out really, really well for them to be able to expand, to be able to bring in. I believe the last time I checked, they were able to bring in over 150 new members, but I'd have to look back on my notes for that. But it's actually being utilized, and the utilization is at least for 2 years down the road. So according to the wording, that isn't something that's going to be eligible to even approach. That it's not being used for the youth for at least 2 years down the road to 2026. So just an update, but I don't see them as not looking at not utilizing that space because it's definitely filling a need that we have in this community.
I'll just say that Jesse and I met with, Brad, is it Brad?
Yes, Brad Summers.
And then a couple of board members and stuff. And so I think we had a good conversation, and I guess there was some, confusion or issues, information wasn't getting flowed correctly from our board, but I think we've got to open up that line of communication, so we should be good. Okay.
Because we should know. I mean, not just one member on the board knowing what's going on, the whole board.
Yeah, and that's kind of what our meeting was, to be, open up that communication with Brad and his board. So I think moving forward, we should have a better line of communications going.
And District Health 4, there's some places that are, we have vacant in that building.
Correct.
Have we advertised them for rent?
We're actually looking at measuring out the space and getting that ready for.
So we haven't done nothing with that yet either.
No.
There's a place in this, below us here. Somebody was using it at one time at no cost. I don't know what happened to them, if they're still using it. We have room for rent there to bring in more income.
I think
So I think what we have to do is start showing the public that we're gonna step up and do what we have to do. I could go on and on. We could turn down the heat, turn down the air. There's so many things that we're overlooking that we can do.
I guess we're going to move on to the next item, which is closed session to discuss litigation. Is that federal litigation? Okay, federal litigation.
No.
Okay, if there's no other things for the board, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Ludlow, support by Commissioner. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All same sign. We're adjourned.